Rain streaked the cafe windows, blurring the glowing street lamps outside into trembling golden orbs. Inside, warmth curled in the air with the hiss of the espresso machine, the scent of coffee and sugar hiding the truth clinging to Mia's coat like smoke. She kept adjusting the frayed cuff where the stitching had given out last winter. It was her sister's uniform shift, but her sister was homesick, pale as chalk, so Mia had slipped it on, buttoned it to the throat, and told herself she could fake being a barista for one night. One shift, she thought. They just needed the money. Rent was late again. The fridge at home held only half a loaf of bread and 2 sad apples, and the landlord had slid another warning notice under the door that morning, curling at the edges from the damp. Mia had walked here through the cold with her sneakers duct-taped at the heel, praying no one would notice. The man at table 3 had noticed her, though. Not in the usual way customers watched the counter, impatient for coffee, but with a stillness that made her stomach flutter. He wore a navy overcoat over a crisp suit, the kind of clothes you saw in store windows you never stepped into. His hair was silver at the temples, but sharp, deliberate, like the cut of his jaw. He looked expensive in a way she couldn't name. And he kept watching her with this curious tilt of his head, like he was trying to place her from somewhere. Double espresso. Please, he'd said when he came in earlier, his voice smooth but carrying a hint of distraction, as if he had 1,000 other things running through his mind. She'd nodded too fast, nearly knocking the portafilter over, her hands trembling from the cold that had seeped into her bones all day. Now the cafe was thinning out, the drizzle outside turning heavier, smearing headlights across the pavement. She wiped tables, glancing at him again. He was scrolling through his phone, thumb tense, jaw set. Something about him screamed power, the kind that could change things with a single call. Rehook moment here. Rough night? His voice startled her. He was closer now, standing near the counter with his empty cup. Oh yeah, kind of, she stammered, brushing a strand of hair back where it had escaped her messy ponytail. The elastic had snapped earlier, so she'd tied it with a rubber band from the drawer. Classy. He studied her for a second longer than was comfortable. You new here? Just covering for my sister, Mia said, tucking a loose thread back into her sleeve. She's sick. I don't actually work here. She tried a nervous smile, immediately regretted it. Why was she explaining her life to a stranger? His eyes softened. She's lucky you came in then. Not many would. Mia shrugged, embarrassed. He didn't know about the rent, or the half loaf of bread, or how her little niece Emma had cried that morning because the milk had gone sour and there was no bus money for school. Outside, the rain thickened, splattering the glass. A couple in a corner booth zipped coats, laughing as they ran for it. The cafe grew quieter. The man at table 3 didn't leave, though. He ordered tea this time, sat back down, watching the storm like he had all the time in the world. Then her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her sister. Emma's fever's worse. No medicine left. Mia's throat tightened. Payday was next week. Next week felt like a lifetime. She fumbled, nearly dropped a mug, muttered, sorry, to no one in particular. The man's gaze flicked back to her, sharper now, like he'd caught the crack in her composure. You okay? He asked quietly when she passed his table again. Mia opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say? That life felt like it was folding in on itself? That she didn't even know how they'd make it through tomorrow? Before she could answer, the door banged open. Wind shoved in a man with a dripping hood. He leaned on the counter, gruff, asking for the manager. Something about unpaid deliveries. Voices rose, the tired girl at the register looking near tears. The manager was gone for the night. Mia stepped forward before thinking, trying to calm things, heart-hammering. The man at table 3 stood too, suddenly beside her, presence steady as stone. Enough, he said to the delivery man, tone carrying weight. Send the invoice to my office. It'll be handled. The delivery man blinked. "And you are?" The stranger handed over a card. The delivery man's eyes widened. Mia caught the name, felt the ground shift under her. CEO of the company that owned the Café chain. Her breath caught that, and then her phone buzzed again. A single line from her sister. "Emma's breathing sounds scary." Mia swayed where she stood. He saw the color drain from her face, the way her hands trembled as she read the message. She turned, fumbling for words, but nothing came out, just this soft gasp, like the air itself had turned heavy in her lungs. He stepped closer, keeping his voice low so no one else would hear. "What's wrong?" Mia shook her head fast, then slower, as if unsure whether to admit it. Her throat worked, but the words finally slipped out, cracked and small. "My niece. She's sick, fever. We don't have the money for a doctor." Something flickered across his face. Not pity exactly. Something harder. Determination, maybe. He glanced at his watch, then at the rain hammering the windows. "Where do you live?" She blinked at him, startled. "Why?" "Because you're about to close up here, right?" He said. "I have a car outside. I can take you to her." No child should wait when they can't breathe. Mia hesitated. Every instinct screamed caution. But her sister's text burned in her mind. The image of little Emma wheezing in that cramped apartment with the peeling paint and flickering bulb above the sink. She nodded. Minutes later, they were out in the rain, his black sedan sleek and absurdly warm inside. Mia sat stiffly, clutching her worn-out phone like a lifeline. The heat hummed around them, fogging the windows. She caught sight of herself in the reflection, wet hair, tired eyes. Thrift store jeans darkened by rain, and hated the way she looked next to him in his perfect suit. When they reached the apartment building, embarrassment pooled in her chest. The stairwell reeked of damp carpet. Their door had that curling eviction notice taped crookedly, flapping in the draft. Her sister opened the door fast, eyes wide with panic. The room behind her was dim except for the flicker of the single bulb. Emma lay on the couch under two thin blankets, cheeks flushed, lips pale. The man stepped inside carefully, like he was intruding on a sacred place. He knelt near Emma, asked about symptoms with a calmness that made Mia realize he had kids. Or had once. Something about the way he smoothed Emma's damp hair back from her forehead held this practiced tenderness. "We need to get her to a clinic," he said finally, standing. His tone left no room for debate. Mia's sister whispered, "We can't pay." "You can," he interrupted gently. "Tonight, you can." At the clinic, everything blurred, forms signed, medicine given, the fever slowly easing. Mia sat in the waiting room under harsh lights, shoes squeaking on the tile whenever she shifted. He stood at the counter speaking in low tones, his credit card sliding across the desk without hesitation. She stared at him, this stranger, trying to make sense of it. Why would a man like him help people like them? When Emma finally slept peacefully back at the apartment, he lingered by the door, rain dripping from his coat. "I'll have some groceries sent tomorrow," he said casually, like it was no big deal. Mia found her voice. "Why are you doing this?" He studied her for a moment. "Because once," he said slowly, "someone did it for me. And it changed everything." She didn't know what to say. Gratitude felt too small for the weight of what had happened tonight. Over the next week, everything shifted in small, unbelievable ways. Boxes of food appeared. The landlord backed off after a sudden payment cleared the rent. Mia's sister cried quietly when a letter came from the Café chain offering her a permanent job with benefits. And then one evening, Mia herself was called into the office of the very café she'd pretended to work at. The CEO sat across from her, no suit this time, just a simple sweater, coffee in hand. "I need someone with grit," he said. "Someone who doesn't wait for perfect conditions before stepping in. That night you didn't freeze. You acted. I could use someone like you in my community outreach division. Mia's mouth fell open. Me? But you, he said firmly. You've seen what it's like on the other side. That matters. She thought of Emma's soft breathing, of the groceries, of the rent notice now crumpled in the trash. She nodded slowly, a smile breaking through the disbelief. Sometimes, Mia realized, lives don't change with grand speeches or lottery wins. Sometimes they change because someone with power simply notices the storm someone else is drowning in and decides to hold out a hand. One act of generosity. That was all it took,